And welcome. Been a very eventful for me few days. So we're going to open in a word of prayer so I can stay focused and remember what I was trying to get through this morning because I lost some prep time to a rather interesting emergency. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you to teach your word, to explain more how you created this wonderful world that we live in, that you provided for us, Lord. I ask that you please be with me, help me concentrate, help me focus, so that what we need to learn from your word is shown through, not my scatteredness or not my forgetting to bring a point forward, Lord. Please let your word shine. We ask that you be with each and every one of us today as it's Father's Day and we celebrate our families, Lord. We ask this in your name. Amen. All right, this morning I am going to attempt to actually use a PowerPoint. We will see how this goes. I need the clicky. It's even on. No, just hit the next slide. You can keep up with me. There we go. So we're going to start with a review. It really doesn't like the clicker. We'll have to figure this out before Jeff gets up there today. Otherwise, we won't keep him on track. So, I wanted to show that video to remind everybody what we talked about last Sunday. God created the earth. He created the stars, the heavens. He placed us in just the right spot. If you think about how large this universe is and how huge it is, even Earth's orbit around our sun, it varies, I don't know, millions of miles either way. It's how we get our warm, cold, and things like that. We're still in just the right spot so we don't fry. Very amazing. With that, let's go over what we're going to learn about today. We're going to learn about day 5 and day 6. And we're going to learn, again, some of the important words that we learned last Sunday, dealing with kind. Kind is very important. Day, as we also learned, yes, it was one day. So let's see what God created in just 2 days. We'll start with Genesis 1:20 through 21. Next, 22 and 23. Let's keep on going. All right, back it up one. What we see here is God creating. Again, he is continuing to create. He creates the birds of the air, the winged birds. He creates the seas, and everything that is in the water is an amazing amount of living things. And then he creates animals. And then he creates man. And on the very sixth day, he says, and God saw everything, and he had made. And behold, it was very good. So we know here that what God has created is good. He has not created evil. He has not created junk. He hasn't created sin and death. It was created very good. And then there was evening and morning on the sixth day. One of the other things we need to take a look at this account, as we did earlier, is God repeating something. He repeats some phrases here. Of its kind, of its kind, of its kind. And when God repeats it, we're kind of expected to listen to it. It's not like, where your dad may have told you, if I've told you once, you ought to pick it up and learn it. Or as my dad told me, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You need to learn this. Here, God is telling us something. He actually tells us at least 10 times in this passage, including the ones we did last Sunday, that he created things according to their kind. And we'll see this, it's true in animals, just as it was in plants. that we are not going to take a frog and a dog. It's not going to happen. I don't care how many times you try. I don't care how often you're at it. You are crossing kinds. Not going to happen. And one of the final things that he said that really we're going to look into as we go through this is in 26 verses 26 and 27. God created man, but how did he create man and why was he different? He was created in his image to have dominion over the animals and over all the earth. So he created us not only to have dominion over the animals, but of the earth. And we have gone through and looked at kinds. We also see this word of the use kinds in the ark when Noah is brought in to bring animals onto the ark. How is he told to brought them in? According to the kind. So he brings them onto the ark according to the kind. So again, here we know through usage of the word kind in the account of Noah that we have to look at the word kind in Genesis. And if you want the reference, God uses the term again when he instructed Noah to take 2 of every kind of animal into the ark in Genesis 6:20. So as we look at the days of creation, he goes through and he creates the animals. And what does he start with? Flying and sea creatures. There are 2 groups that appear in day 5. And one of the things we want to look at is in Leviticus, if you'll pop that up, please, Myron. And these you shall, geez, I'm going to have to look this one up. I can't read from there like I thought I could. Leviticus 11, let's turn to that. (11, 13 through 19). So we want to look at as we look at these animals. Now you have to understand that this is after sin has entered. Because one of the interesting things that we find out in Genesis is as much as we like bacon and as much as we like a good steak, we are deemed vegetarians because he gave us the plants and the food to eat. In Leviticus 13, and these you shall regard as an abomination among the birds. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination, the eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the kite, and the falcon after its kind. Every raven after its kind. The ostrich, the short-eared owl, the seagull, the hawk after its kind. The little owl, the fisher owl, and the screech owl, the white owl, the jackdaw, and the heron vulture, the stork, the heron after its kind, the hoopie, and the bat. And these are all animals that the flying creatures that we're saying, the forbidden to be eaten. But here, if we go to 20, we also hear that all flying insects that creep on all 4s shall be an abomination to you. Yet these you may eat of flying insects that creep on all 4s. Those which have joined legs above their feet, with which leap on the earth, these you may eat. And they are the locust after its kind, the destroying locust after its kind, the cricket after its kind, the grasshopper after its kind, and other flying insects which have all 4, but the other flying insects which have 4 feet shall be an abomination to you. Here, when we're talking about the animals that were being given to eat, in this case insects, which I know I've had my fair share, but I'd rather not. We're being told which ones we can and can't eat by kind. Not by variation, but by kind. And so we go through and we see again that God has kept the theme that we studied last Sunday about keeping the kind on what can and what cannot be eaten. And again, this happens after Adam and Eve sinned, so at this point we're no longer the vegetarians that we once were. And we continue on in, to day 6. And we create the animals. And he creates 3 basic kinds. Here, livestock, creeping things, and beasts of the fields. Now, when we look at animals, we can look at the white-tailed deer that we see here in Michigan, whether on the side of the road or, on our hood, have them there, at the end of a rifle scope. We can see the white-tailed deer here, and yet we can go out into the Rocky Mountains and still be able to identify the deer that are out there, even though they don't look exactly the same. They look close enough to the same because they have variation, but God created them just the same. Again, dogs. We touched a little bit on it last Sunday in discussing kind, because we have labs and we have poodles, and they put them together to become an annoying dog called a labradoodle. But you're never going to put a dog with a cat and get anything different because they are not of the same kind. And we find these truths again hold as in day 6 when he created not only the flying things, but also in the animals. The most important thing that we want to cover today, because it will lead into next Sunday's discussion, is what else did he create on day 6? He created man. But what's different about man? What happened, and when he created man, what was different about them? Exactly. The only creation God created that was in his image. Now, no, it doesn't. That's it. We got one shot. And when he created us unique from all other creation. He created us unique in various ways. 1, in his image. 2, he gave us dominion over the animals. He gave us dominion over the earth. He obviously wanted us to be responsible for that. For me, the key that he gave us dominion over the animals had me thinking Wednesday or Thursday when I was reading a news article. We have dominion over them. We are not equal to them. Think of how often people will take their pets and escalate them to child status. How often do we see news articles of people out there who are taking animals and being subservient to them, that they have a greater purpose or a greater access to something? We have dominion over them. We were to be caretakers of them, not subservient to them, and not equal to us. And as hard as that may mean to sound, as I know some of us have pets that we really do love, but I can tell you right now that if my dog would have been in the same place my child was, I'd have a shovel and be burying it. Shed a few tears and clean up the mess. With my child, I have a transit that now probably needs a brake job and has been through a little more than they'll ever be through it again. Why? Because we weren't created in the animal kind. We were created different. We were given dominion over the animals, the plants, and we were created in his image. And this brings up more things we should be thinking about as we continue to read. Because if we are in his image, we are not in his physical image. I mean, we all look different. I mean, some of us have hair, some of us don't have hair. Some of us, still have color in our hair. Some of us are losing it faster than others. Some of us are older, some of us are younger. So physically, what would God look like? Exactly. It's in his spirit. We have what they called communicable attributes. We have been made to reflect portions of God's abilities, like creativity. We can create. And this separates us also from the animal kingdom because, yes, beavers can create. They make awesome dams. They're really good at blocking up the water and fouling things up. They're one of the biggest rodents out there. But what do beavers do? They make dams. Can the beaver turn that dam into the Eiffel Tower? No. Can he turn it into a building like this? No, but he creates his dam, which is his home, which is where they live. He is singly purposed to create that dam. So while he may have creativity, if you want to attribute that attribute, he can only do one thing. He can only build a dam. That beaver is not going to decide to take the steel out of my scrap pile with the arc welder to go build something bigger and better. We have the creativity not only to build the same style of dam the beaver did, but we can make improvements to that. We can create and change the way things are through multiple areas of things. Bird make nests. That's it. The bird makes the nest. The bird doesn't make an automobile. They do that too, and they do really good at it. You can have, if you park your car in the right spot, you can go from a really nice, pick your color, to white-ish. Yeah, exactly. But the bird is only going to do one thing. He can create no further than what he was created to do. That's it. Humans have the ability to create and screw up multiple things across multiple ranges. I mean, take a look at the creativity Charlie does with bodywork on cars. I mean, if you really want to get interesting to how we can create, take a look at Johnny Cash's Cadillac song. Starts out as a, 45? Ends up as a 70? But we can do that. We can take that creativity across those many years and we can build something that actually does go down the road. Don't know whether it would drive well, but it does go down the road. The other thing we have is emotions, love, thinking, reasoning. Excuse me. Mercy, wisdom. If you think of mercy, I like to think of lions when they hunt. They go out, get what they want, kill it, they're done. They usually take the weakest one out of the flock because it's the easiest one to get to. If humans were put in that spot, we have the ability to think through and reason that maybe we want to show mercy to this pack for some reason. Lions don't. They function to do something, to eat, to get their food. We also have wisdom. I think some of us are working on that more than others. But we have the ability to learn from past mistakes. and apply those learnings to other situations across the board. So we are more than just image from a physical point of view. We are created in his image spiritually to think. And all of these parts come together to reflect God's character. One of the things that we see in today's world is the entrance of sin. Sin has created the problem of we have these attributes of God, but sin now is taking over, and we are no longer using those attributes properly. One of the ideas that really kind of caught my eye this week as I was reading through these, get to that in a second. One of these that caught my eyes as going through here is, if we're created in God's image, how does that now become a moral problem for people? Because there's freedom to think, it does. Mm-hmm. What else? Correct. So how does this play against euthanasia? Let's hit the next hot button topic. How does this create against abortion? Because, I'm sorry? It does. Absolutely it makes it wrong. Because we are created in God's image. We have more value than the rabbit. We have more value than the monkey. Okay? I'm not going to go out and hunt teenagers for food, but I'm going to go out and hunt a deer. I'm sure some people would mind a few teenagers disappearing. But still, that's the point. The deer is there for food. The teenagers aren't. But when we remove God from this equation and when we remove his uniqueness in the way he is killing, and we allow sin to dominate our thinking, when does the teenager become the deer? When does the infant become the deer? We lose our sense of value. And God created us with value. The other thing I wanted to touch on as we're thinking about this, and I kind of stumbled on this as I was reading again last night. The Trinity was involved in the process of creating. And I thought about this, and I'm like, but God created, and God created. That's all you remember when you hear these verses. God created. Well, what does God actually say? God says, let us make man in his image. Yeah, make our image. Yep, you're right. Us, our, those aren't singular words. They're plurals. Let us roast the hog for the car roast. Who's us? Well, that's Jeff, myself, and anybody else we can wrangle along to go with us who thinks we're crazy. We make kids in our image. Our kids look like us. It's our. It's plural. Some kids we cannot deny, whether their looks, the way they act. We can't get away from it. After our likeness. So the Trinity was there in the process. And the other thing I wanted to bring out is regard to the God being there at creation is that while we are not made in the physical image of God, because God does not have a physical body, Jesus comes to earth and he takes a physical body, and we see this sometimes in the Old Testament. And we'll remember what Jeff said last Sunday. What did Joshua see? He didn't see an angel. Right? He did. Because if you saw an angel, the first thing the angel, as Jeff said, would have gone to say, hey, stop that, knock it off, get up. Don't do that no more. We didn't see that. Take your sandals off, you're on holy ground. I'm the commander of the Lord's army. And we see that, and so I wanted to bring those two out because it reflects, one, the God, the Trinity, was there at the creation. We see Jesus appearing in the Old Testament sometimes. And it all goes to being made in his image from a spiritual point of view. Even more on the implications, because this is what really hit me hard this week, is the social implications of being created in God's view. When we remove God from the equation, when we remove Jesus Christ from our lives, we come to relativism. We come to a place where the only higher authority we have is ourselves. If we are created in the image of God, one, he created us. Two, there was something there before us. Our kids are created in our image, as I have said before. They look like us. They act like us. They do stupid things that we may or may not have done in the past, but they are still like us. So our kids belong to us. We are created in the image of God, so who do we belong to? We belong to Jesus Christ. And when you remove Jesus Christ from the equation, we belong now to no one. We are floating around. We have no moral compass. The ideas of slavery, eugenics, racism, we've touched on abortion. The very value of human life goes out the window. Because who says Mike's more valuable than I am? Who says Charlie is more valuable than I am? In the idea of euthanasia and even eugenics, who's making the decision on who is more valuable? Because you've removed God from the picture. You have nothing to go on. Genesis 5 and 6 is really important. The whole story of creation is because it gives us our framework. It tells us we were created. The world we lived in were created. He made the fish. He made the birds. He made the plants. He made this all. And then he made the stars so we could look at something. He made everything. And then on the sixth day, in his image, he made us. He gave us his attributes so that we could care for this world and we could glorify him, which is our main purpose here, to glorify God. So as you read through Genesis, and I am finishing a little early today, as you read through Genesis account, again, read through it not only from the lens of what did God create? But read through it through the lens of why did he create it? What was as a symphony goes, if I got this term wrong, let me know, the crescendo at the end, the big, aha, this is what I've done piece of the symphony. He comes up and he starts with nothing. Literally nothing. He spoke, it happened. He spoke, boom, there's an oak tree, fully formed, looking really gorgeous to provide shade or heat, however you want to look at it. It was fully formed and it was done. The waters were there. He spoke. The fish were in it. He spoke. The animals were here. He created the heavens, the earth, the animals, the plants. And what does he do at the end? He creates one more. He creates man to glorify him, to look over this creation, to be its caretakers, not to be equal with it, because we're to have dominion over it, but to be caretakers of what he has created. Comments, questions, additions? No, they do not. That was it. Right. Correct. We are very much eternal beings. We will live with him forever, or we will live in the absence of him forever. Very bad place. It's a little hotter than I like. I mean, Jeff may like warm, but I don't think he likes it that warm. Any other comments? Bad juju. No. Not when he can go, tree. I mean, there's no recycling there. Yep. And that's where we can use Genesis, just the chapter 1, to go, yeah, I don't think you're right with there. I think we need to take a look at that again. So, with that, I will ask Mike, would you please close this in prayer, please? I got him back here. Hey, boss lady.